I really have to do this, Dad?
Stan, now more than ever, you need to understand the importance of
meta gameplay.
But Grandma said
I could build the deck any way I wanted.
Okay, next please. Go on, Stanley. How can I help you, young man?
Yeah, I want to play my new Blue Eyes deck. I'm really excited. This is my first tournament, and I'm really nervous.
Well, that's fantastic. A really smart decision, young man.
I'm going to normal summon this Proto Dragon. I'm going to activate Power Bond from my hand. That's going to fusion summon Cyber Dragon with triple attack points and attack your life points directly.
And it's gone.
What?
It's gone. It's all gone.
What's all gone?
Your life points. They didn't do too well, and they're gone. What do you mean? I have 8,000 life points!
Not anymore, you don't. Poof.
Well, what can I do to get back?
I'm sorry, this table is for good players only. Get good, scrub. I just sat down! Do you have any life points so that way we can play the game?
No, you just lost it all.
Then please step aside so I can play with somebody who actually has life points. Thank you!
Hey!
Welcome to Fixing Yu-Gi-Oh!, where we use the game's design and hindsight to fix all of Yu-Gi-Oh!'s early problems. I'm your host, Prunk, and today we're tackling Cybernetic Revolution. I can't get my dog off me. It's been an hour. Please send help. So my goal this episode is to distract you all with my horrible lack of skill at doing YouTube stuff with a puppy. I don't know how that will work, but this is the strategy. Have you ever seen a host hold a puppy in their chairs? Probably not. So here we go. This is my thing. This is the thing now, guys. We're celebrating this. Ow, stop struggling. Okay, she ran away. Everyone say goodbye, Daz, in the comments if you like the puppy. So we are here to talk about Cybernetic Revolution, and this set changed everything. And by everything, I mean specifically Yu-Gi-Oh! This is just where special summonings started to feel a lot less special, and started really. This really started the slope for meta gameplay in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! And where people would just make sure if you can get multiple monsters on the field as quickly as possible, it really became meta. And no card really did that better than Cyber Dragon. Before this card came out, the meta was easily go first. Get an extra card, set extra cards on the field, set up your traps, set up your things, however, like everything you can. Cyber Dragon made people second guess this because it was just such a big beat stick that can instantly get out onto the field where, oh wait, I don't really play that many traps. Like, how am I going to deal with this 2100 attacker this next turn? Or even with these big OTK strategies that Cyber Dragon decks could actually put out. And dropping a power bond on turn 2, you just straight up could lose. Like that just never was the thing before. And it was terrifying to go first if you weren't playing a trap-heavy deck because of how powerful it could really be. You really only needed 2 Cyber Dragon cards and Power Bond in hand, and you had game, basically. Or a limiter reversal or removal, whatever. Limiter thing. Now, even though the Cyber Dragon, core didn't really hit the meta, as far as, the fusion stuff, it was still really good. It was still terrifying to play with against locals, and it was going to be an auto-include in literally every deck for being a meta player. Thankfully, Cyber Dragons do get reprinted pretty quickly for the masses, because otherwise I feel like this card would have been $100, $200 plus. I don't know what it was on release, but I know it was expensive. So Cyber Dragons don't really need a fix whatsoever, so we're not really going to focus on them. They were just great, and I can't really complain about them at all. I'm looking to fix the worst anime character of all time, Syrus. Oh, your deck. This little simp was just a horrible duelist, a horrible player, barely grew throughout the story, and only redeeming quality was that he was loyal to his friends, but, it's anime. Everybody is friendship and loyal. Come on. On release, these Steam cards, Steam Gyroid, a 2200 vanilla beat stick, was the boss, their bosses. All these Roid monsters were so bad. Their effects offered no synergy whatsoever to something that the archetype just never addressed, even with all the support that it actually gets. And it's not really until the high speed Roid cards came out in the Synchro era where those were playable, but the Roids in general were just not really seen. You might get by with that drill card, but that's really about it. I mean, I think a big problem with them is just the lack of identity. I get G-rated Transformer vibes from all of them, but you can't splash them into anything. And UFO Roid, you can make a cool boss monster with a UFOid fighter, but a tribute summonable 1200 recruiter isn't really worth much, like playing much for the meta. I mean, like, yeah, you can cheese it out with Shining Angel, but like, should you have to play these things? There were just so many better options, like to get what you needed. So I don't feel like putting Shining Angel into my Roid deck should fix the whole thing. Like, you realistically, first step we need to fix is UFO Roid. We're gonna keep it at 12-12 stat line, and it just drops down to being like a level 3. And it should be like there should not be a tributal recruiter in the game. They are meant to get your other monsters out, and they're meant to build consistency. And I shouldn't have to tribute summon a 1200 attacker to get to my other Roid monsters. So now we have all these access to these wonderful little Roid cards with our new this guy being level 3. But what do? Drillroid can be scary with limiter removal, as it does have piercing, and I think he's fine. He's actually the only one that was actually playable. Gyroid cannot be destroyed by battle at least once. Woo. We're kind of getting away from that being good. Jetroid allows you to play trap cards from your hand when it's attacked, so you can keep Mirror Force at 1, and play it from your hand now. Like, that's a card. Like, why? Like, what? You're not drawing on your opponent's turn, so you could have just set it. So looking at GX as a whole, like, Jaden has cool fusion warrior monsters, small monsters, combos to big bosses with cool effects. Okay. Zane, cool boss fusion monsters that can OTK, something that's not known, that wasn't known for in Yu-Gi-Oh! Like at all, other than like Catapult Turtle, there was like the FTKs, but we didn't really get OTKs off that often. They were extremely rare, and you had to go ham and like just having the right cards. I'm sure they happened, but they didn't. They didn't really happen to me as a lot. Chaz had Armed Dragon stuff before chazzing it up and becoming Mega Chaz with the playing Ojamas like a real pro. Like, come on, guys. Are you not playing Ojamas? It's 2023. We should be jamming that. Ojama. Jam it. Got it. That was unintentional. And now that I made that pun, everyone's just, like, unsubscribing. Oh, yeah, fine. Okay, you don't like my dad jokes. I'm kidding. Please like and subscribe. Do not unsubscribe from me. I am so desperate and need an attention. So Syrus just legit needs something to fit his cowardly personality. And so I introduce you to my retrains on Roids. While this card is face up on the field, it cannot be destroyed. You may discard a Roid monster from your hand to save it. I don't know what do you call it? To basically save it from destruction. So basically, if this card would be destroyed, you can discard another Roid from your hand, and it will be protected for that turn, or that destruction card would be negated, or something along the lines. I don't know how to word that properly, though. This says that cowards are protecting each other, and somebody else is fighting that card's battle, so from the safety of their hand. So I like that a lot, but this also means you're going to start going neg pretty quickly for it. So we're going to need to work the other Roids to maintain advantages, so that way these guys are relatively weak statted monsters, and they are machines, so we want to keep it that way, because limiter removal is scary when you have big stat monsters on the field, and we don't want to have limiter removal hit the ban list because we're playing heavy Roids. So let's fit it in. Gyroid. When this card is summoned, add a Roid monster from your graveyard to your hand. This is just an improved version of the upcoming Rescue Roid in the future, but we'll cross that bridge later, because I think the deck would desperately need this card on launch. And I think it fits the theme of just being the little helicopter thing, of just being able to rescue cards from the graveyard. Jetroid. This is where we start getting into some of our cool effects. When this card is discarded by the card effect of a Roid card, add a normal trap from your graveyard to your hand. This stops issues with weird timing and rulings. Also, it just gives you back some card advantage that you might possibly need, allowing you to play and reuse certain traps. Because, again, if you're a coward, you're probably hiding behind some kind of trap. You're not really brute forcing your way through, and I think this would fit Syrus to a T. He is not his monsters, and he is not fighting his battles. His traps are doing the heavy lifting, while the weak little ones are going in to hit. Psychroid, this is just a full-on retrain because it's a bicycle and was a vanilla. But when this card is discarded by an effect of a Roid card, increase the attack of a monster on the field by 800 attack. So now my weak monsters are getting a little bit bigger, and he would have been destroyed. So maybe he would have get hit by the one monster. He took the hit, discarded the card, saves himself from destruction, and now gains 800 attack, so the next card can't hit over him. So I think that is actually pretty good. And if not, then, I mean, it's still a nice little stat boof. Psychroid is a vanilla monster anyways, but I think I would still play him like that. Patroid. This guy he needs a higher stat line because his effect is just going to be about gathering info. So 18, 12, When this card is discarded by the effect of a Roid card, reveal all face-down cards your your opponent controls and return them to its original position. It's similar to his original effect, but just giving him a higher stat line, it kind of gives the deck a beat stick that they're going to desperately need. And his effect is mediocre when it's discarded, but it's not useless. I mean, knowledge is still good in the game. So if somebody has a couple set cards in the back row, you can kind of pick and choose. And I think that'd be fine because it's a higher stat line. It's a weaker effect by far compared to some of the other ones, but knowledge is sometimes better anyways. So if somebody has 4 back row, I'd want to know what's the back row, and I can pick and choose. Okay, well now I have MST, I can hit the one I need to hit, or just be aware. And like otherwise though, it's an 1800 stat line and it's a machine, so I think it'd be good. So they can all protect each other by discarding themselves, all but Gyroid, which gives an effect for being discarded. Gyroid just helps fetch those other cards, so you're going to be wanting to summon out this with like UFO Roid and all the other things. So that way you can get other cards back from your hand that have been discarded and so on. So I think it's a really cool synergy loop that you can kind of go along with them, and they all have their own themes. And remember, thanks to our master rules, it's only a once per turn kind of thing. But even if it wasn't once per turn, I don't think it would be broken. I think this is all fine. So it's not really meta defining, but definitely a new playable archetype for Cybernetic Revolution, because otherwise these cards sit in the bulk binder and are never touched whatsoever. I've never seen anybody play the Gyroid or Roid cards early on, or like just try and make these things work, because they don't. They're not really a good theme, and they're a bad archetype for a really bad character on the show. So nobody wanted to touch them. If you did have a solid Roid card or Roid deck for this time period, or even like just relatively newer, please post it on Imgur. Post a link in the comments. I desperately want to see your deck. And you know what? I'll test it out, and if I'm wrong, I'll give you a shout out in the next video and say, hey, I was wrong. This deck is awesome. But I don't expect it to be this. Nobody was building solid Roid decks during this time when Cyber Dragon was right there. Chaos was right there. Goat format is all at the peak at this moment too as well. So if you had a solid Goat deck that could beat, if you had a solid Gyroid deck or Roid deck that could beat Goat format stuff, please let me know in the comments. I am begging for that. Now I do want to look at Steam Gyroid now. So we can get the main effect still, but like, can we please just let it beat over Jinzo? Like, a 2500 stat line is fine, or maybe make it like gain steam the more Roids that are in the graveyard, since we're focusing on discarding a bunch of them. So like, I would personally make this card this card gains 7/7 for each Roid in the graveyard. It does give the deck some OTK potential. So if the game's going on long and I bring out this guy as a 20, and let's say I have 5, 6, let's say I have 8 Roids on into the graveyard. 8, that's 35. Yeah, so 8, 16, 24, 32, 40, 48. So 48, if I have 6 out, yeah, I have 4,800 attack with a Gyroid, or with a Roid. That's pretty good. Hey, I finally have Roids coming out at me as this big swingy hit, and limiter removal on top of that, it's a big, massive swing for this guy. The deck actually gets a win condition for that, and it's not any more broken than if you were to have like Cyber Dragon. In fact, it's arguably still worse than the Cyber and Dragon stuff. You still have to play out the Roid cards, and you have to fill your graveyard with it. I mean, there are cards like, of course, Painful Choice is still broken as all hell, and it hasn't been banned yet. That will be like, oh, well, this card is extremely broken turn 2, but it still requires setup, and I don't think it's going to be fast enough to like make a big impact on the meta, but I do think it makes the deck playable. And honestly, as far as a show like perspective, this gives Syrus a real reason to play Power Bond, because if he's just fusion summoning with his Roid cards and he has a bunch of them in the graveyard already, Power Bond would actually be really effective with this card as well. One other change I'd really like to make would be like just somewhat buffs on the deck is the Cybernetic Cyclopean. We're going to want to change this guy to a warrior. So if you are discarding Roids, then you can have him as an empty hand with this guy, and I think he would kind of need him as a poly target, so that way UFO Roid works out well with it. So like, it does have some synergy if we make this guy a warrior. So, and I think it fits the theme of the whole setup that we have. We have the discard cards. This guy gets bonuses for not having a discard, or not having any cards in hand. So, and then now he can be the UFO Roid guy riding on the UFO to get this big fusion card out. So there are cards like this like that are like Mechhound and Cyber Archfiend that also get support with like the Roid cards because of the discard synergy. And so having like Cyber Archfiend on the field after you're just discarding your Roids to protect other stuff could be really fun. So with that, I think that there is a lot there, so that way people could build a deck around these discard engines with the Roids, having an empty hand kind of deck, so that way a lot of your advantage is out on the field. And cards are getting to be recycled quite a bit because of like things like the Gyroid now that's going to be able to rescue cards from the graveyard now. So I think it could be really fun, and I'm going to consider these guys fixed with these changes. Winged Kuriboh and Transcendent Wings. Well, these guys, again, these are just fusion cards, guys. I don't need to go. I've already talked about a lot of the cards that I think can be fixed as a fusion cards. Side note, I have played pure Kuribohs back then, just to kind of test out how these decks were. And, I mean, it was pure Kuribohs. The deck works. So it was playable. I have won several games with it. I wasn't going to locals and winning my tournaments with it, but I have beat a bunch of people on Dueling Book with it, and it was hilarious. So I loved it. So no fix necessary. The deck does what it needs to do, and pure Kuribohs back then could actually work with Transcendent Wings. I think just the only thing you would really want is make Transcendent Wings a fusion card to get Winged Kuriboh out of the fusion deck, so that way it just makes the deck more consistent. And again, it fits with a lot of our other cards that in themes of that, or making it that red border card we kind of talked about the last time. Big Evan Ship Crystal Core. We got more Big Evan ships, guys. This guy just needs to be like an 1800 attacker, maybe a 4-star monster, and for the fix, I think that's fine. Like it makes it a little bit more. It synergizes everything else. All of its effects can stay the same. We don't have to really touch much with this guy. The frog stuff, just delete. I hate frogs. They're just countless FTKs and stuff with them. The hard once per turn rule does, and for our new master rules, does fix and or limit their power. But that's really it. Like, just, I hate frogs. Just cut them. Like, cut them out. Once per turn, they're fine, and you could probably get some stuff out of the way, but I'm sure there's something else that people can do, even if they are once per turn, where there still shouldn't be printed at all. But again, guys, this was another 60 card pack. We got hero support, which we didn't really have to touch too much. We have Roids, which desperately needed the help, but I think we fixed those easily. Cyber Dragons don't really need a fix. I think they were solid and good. We don't need to touch that. It was a solid pack, and I really do like that Konami decides to focus on really just like 2 or 3 archetypes per pack in these last few sets, because you can really start to build, like, with just a few adjustments and a few changes, it could have built solid decks that would have been fun for anybody and could have impacted the meta a lot more if we just changed a few effects, if we just gave people reasons to play Roid cards, if we just gave them chances to play Beast cards. Who knows how the meta would have shaped up? I'm sure a lot better players and a lot smarter players than me could have figured out good ways to really break the meta with some of these changes that I don't feel like are any of the changes that we've done in this series have been unreasonable. I think, like, from a game designer perspective, we have been balancing out all this stuff extremely well with what is currently in the power creep. And that's all we can really do. So that will wrap up this week, guys. I know I've kind of moved fixing Yu-Gi-Oh to be a little bit more of a bi-weekly for the time being. I can't keep up with the schedule, and I'm just being busier and busier with work. I started a new job, and so I really want to keep doing these videos, but I just couldn't do a video a week in editing, plus then do progression series. New games are coming out that I desperately want to play. You guys probably seen some of the wrestling stuff I've been posting. I want to jump on like doing Resident Evil 4 remake again. Dead Space I haven't touched yet. I want to touch that. I don't know if I'm going to record that unless it's really requested, but those are just some games that I've really wanted to play out, and I have been spending a lot more time editing. My fiance yells at me and be like, "Why are you always on the computer?" I'm like, "I'm trying to do stuff." I'm taking a little bit of break and trying to do these bi-weekly instead, so that way I just don't get burned out. And I want to keep doing these because I'm having a lot of fun talking to you guys. I'm having a lot of fun reading your comments. Thank you guys I love reading all the feedback. Even if I just give you a heart or a like or anything, I really do look at those, and I love it, the enthusiasm. So please keep those coming. It does keep me motivated to keep doing this. So thank you all. Love the support. Please like, subscribe, share if these videos have been entertaining to you whatsoever. If you haven't done that yet, I really appreciate it if you could. Just seeing those numbers goes up. It's that hit of dopamine. I love it, and it really keeps me like wanting to do this more and more. So thank you again. Please like and subscribe. Take care.